Tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Vanessa Andreotti and I'm based at University of Canterbury in New Zealand at the Department for Maori Social and Cultural Studies in Education. I coordinate this project with Professor Limário de Souza from the University of São Paulo. This presentation is about the conceptual framework and methodology of the Through Other Eyes project. We hope you enjoy it. Thank you. So the conceptual framework of the Through Other Eyes project consists of 4 ideas of learning. Learning to unlearn, learning to listen, learning to learn, and learning to reach out. Learning to unlearn involves learning to perceive that what we considered good and ideal is only one perspective. And this perspective is related to where we come from, socially, historically, and culturally. Learning to listen involves learning to recognize the effects and limits of our perspective and to be receptive to new understandings of the world. Learning to learn involves learning to receive new perspectives, to rearrange and expand our own, and to deepen our understanding, thinking beyond our limits. Learning to reach out involves learning to apply this learning to our own context and in our relationships with others, continuing to reflect and explore new ways of being, thinking, doing, knowing, and relating. In this project, we conceptualize this process as a spiral, as something that never ends. So we would learn to unlearn, listen, learn, and reach out in an ongoing way. This framework also addresses different levels of engagement in reading the world. We talk about an egocentric level, an ethnocentric level, a human-centric level, a world-centric level. At an egocentric level, we would need to address someone's own framings, narratives, and representations. At an ethnocentric level, we would be looking at someone's a group's framings, narratives, and representations. Someone's group's framings, narratives, and representations. At a human-centric level, we would be looking at other groups' framings, narratives, and representations. So, groups that are different from the groups of the people we are working with. And at the world-centric level, we would be looking at other possible framings, narratives, and representations that do not necessarily belong to the groups we are exposed to. So the idea of thinking beyond the limits of our imagination and imagining other possible futures. So the Through Other Eyes methodology consists of six components. The first component is the getting started component, and this operates at a learning to unlearn level, and it focuses on ego, or the relationship between the ego and the ethno. So it's relationships related to ego and ethno centric levels. It involves a brainstorm of individual perspectives, an invitation to relate it to different perspectives in one social group. So it's very much brainstorming the knowledge that the person already has of the topic. The second component of the methodology is called mainstream perspectives, and it also involves learning to unlearn. But this one focuses on the heterogeneity at the ethno level, so the different perspectives that our social groups necessarily entail. So this involves an analysis and deconstruction of mainstream, exposing learners to the heterogeneity within the ethno-narrative and to an outline of different strands in the debate. Component number 3 is called different logics. This component is related to learning to listen. So it operates at an ethno, human, and world-centric levels. This component invites an analysis of another possible and logical way of thinking about the issue that is being addressed through the learning activity. And it uses metaphors to do that. The interviews with indigenous people served as a basis for the metaphor strands. However, the perspective presented is the author's interpretations of the collected data. Component number 4 is called Through Other Eyes. This involves learning to listen. It operates at an ethno-human centric level, and it involves exposure to other personal narratives. So the idea here is the metaphor in action, and at this in this component we expose people to indigenous people talking about their own perspectives about practical issues. Component number 5 is a case study. It operates at the level of world, human, and ethnocentric levels. It involves learning to learn. And it invites an examination of the complexity of issues related to colonizer-colonized relationships. And it also invites people to map similar issues in their own contexts. Component number 6 is called Reading the World Again, and it is where people start to learn to reach out, but also to evaluate their own learning and their own learning process in this project. It operates at the world, human, ethno, and ego-centric levels, and it involves self-assessment in terms of potential transformation in thinking and implications for professional practice. As we're working with educators, this would involve the professional practice of educators. The Through Other Eyes methodology was the basis of 5 learning activities. So the first learning activity is around the topic of engaging with indigenous knowledges, so it is in the introduction and it's available on the website. The second activity is related to notions of development. Then we have notions of education, notions of equality and difference, and notions of poverty and wealth. There are more learning activities being developed. The Through Other Eyes framework is reflected in the components of each learning activity in the Through Other Eyes project. We hope these learning activities will enable learners to develop an understanding of how language and systems of belief, values, and representation affect the way people interpret the world, to identify how different groups understand issues related to development and their implications for the development agenda, to critically examine these interpretations, both Western and indigenous, looking at origins and potential implications of assumptions, to identify an ethics for improved dialogue, engagement, and mutual learning, and to transfer the methodology developed in the program into the classroom context through the analysis and piloting of sample classroom materials. You are invited to pilot or review these activities. If you'd like to be involved in this project, please contact Vanessa Andriotti at vanessa.andriotti@canterbury.ac.nz or Limario de Souza at mdesouza@usp.br. We thank you for your interest and we hope to hear from you soon.